If you're on the age pension or you're helping a parent manage theirs, 5 things just changed that can genuinely shrink your payment, some of them without you doing anything different at all. One of these can cost you your pension for 5 years over a single gift you thought was completely harmless. I'm going through all 5 in plain English so you know exactly where you stand before Centrelink tells you your payment's gone down. Let's get into it. Quick reminder, I'm not a financial advisor and I don't work for Centrelink or Services Australia. Pension rules are genuinely complex and depend heavily on your personal situation, so treat this as your starting point for questions to ask, not your final answer. If anything here sounds close to your situation, it's worth an actual conversation with Services Australia or a financial advisor who specializes in retirement. Let's start with the change catching the most people off guard right now. Number 1, and this is genuinely the biggest shift, the deeming rate freeze has ended and it's already affecting payments. Quick explainer if you're not familiar with deeming, for financial assets like bank accounts, term deposits, shares, and super in pension phase, Centrelink doesn't look at what you're actually earning. Instead, it assumes or deems that your money is earning a set rate of return and uses that assumed figure for your income test, regardless of your real returns. Here's why this matters so much right now. These deeming rates were frozen back in 2020 during COVID to protect pensioners from rate volatility, and that freeze stayed in place for years. It's now ended, and rates have jumped a full percentage point. The lower rate moved to 1.25%, and the upper rate moved to 3.25%. What that means practically, even if your actual returns on your savings haven't changed at all, Centrelink is now assuming you're earning more from your money than it was assuming last year. That higher assumed income counts toward your income test, and for pensioners sitting close to an income test threshold, this alone can be enough to reduce a fortnightly payment purely because of a rate change that has nothing to do with your real financial situation. The lower rate applies to your first $66,800 in financial assets if you're single, or $110,600 combined for a couple. Anything above that threshold gets deemed at the higher 3.25% rate. If you've got meaningful savings sitting in the bank or in shares outside super, it's worth actually recalculating your deemed income under these new rates, because a lot of pensioners are still working off numbers from before the freeze ended. Number 2, the asset test thresholds themselves have moved, and this cuts both ways depending on where you sit. For a single homeowner, you can now hold assessable assets up to $333,000 and still receive the full pension. Above that, your pension starts reducing by $3 a fortnight for every $1,000 over the threshold, until it cuts off completely once your assessable assets pass $733,500 for a single homeowner, or higher again if you don't own your home. Here's the part that's genuinely brutal for some people. Once you cross that upper cutoff, your part pension doesn't just shrink, it cancels entirely, not reduces to a small amount, gone. And these thresholds get reviewed multiple times a year, which means someone sitting just under the cutoff can find themselves pushed over it purely through indexation or a change in asset values, with zero change in their actual spending or lifestyle. If you're anywhere near these thresholds, say within $50,000 to $100,000 of the cutoff, this is worth actively monitoring, not just checking once a year. A property revaluation, an inheritance, or even strong share market performance can be enough to tip you from a part pension into nothing. Number 3, and this one trips up a lot of pensioners who are still working part-time or doing casual shifts to top up their income. The work bonus lets pension-age Australians earn extra income from personal exertion, meaning actual work, like a part-time job, without it counting against the income test, up to $460 a fortnight. It's a genuinely useful concession if you understand exactly what it applies to. Here's the trap. The work bonus only applies to income from actual employment or self-employment. It does not apply to deemed income from your investments, rental income, or income from superannuation pension streams. A lot of pensioners assume the work bonus is a general buffer that protects any extra income from affecting their pension. It isn't. If you're earning from a part-time job and also drawing an account-based pension from super, only the employment income gets the work bonus treatment. The super income stream is assessed under the normal income test rules regardless. This matters more than ever with the deeming rate change we just covered, because pensioners who assumed their investment income was somewhat protected the way their work income is are getting a less forgiving outcome than they expected on two fronts at once: higher deemed income, with no work bonus buffer to soften it. Number four, and this is the one that genuinely costs people the most, often completely by accident: the gifting rules. If you gift money or assets to family, helping a child with a house deposit, for example, Centrelink allows you to gift up to $10,000 in a single financial year or $30,000 across a rolling 5-year period without it affecting your pension. Here's where it turns brutal. Anything you gift above those limits doesn't just get ignored, it gets treated as a deprived asset. That means Centrelink continues counting that money as if you still own it for the assets test, and also applies the deeming rate to it for the income test for 5 full years from the date you gave it away. You've genuinely given the money away, it's gone, you can't access it anymore, but Centrelink assesses your pension as though you still have it. This catches out well-meaning parents and grandparents constantly. Someone helps a child with a $50,000 house deposit, thinking they're just being generous without realizing $20,000 of that gift, the amount over the $30,000 5-year limit, is going to sit on their own assessable asset record for the next 5 years, quietly reducing their own pension the entire time. How to avoid it? If you're planning any gift above $10,000 in a financial year, or you're approaching $30,000 total over 5 years, this is a conversation to have with Services Australia or a financial advisor before you transfer the money, not after. Spreading a larger gift across multiple financial years within the annual limit is one common way people manage this legally. And number 5, the one people are most surprised to learn at all: your age pension is technically taxable income. Most full-rate pensioners never notice this because the seniors and pensioners tax offset, SAPTO, effectively reduces their tax to zero if the pension is their only income. For the current year, a single pensioner can have what's called rebate income, up to around $34,919 before SAPTO starts shading out, and it disappears completely once income passes roughly $52,759. For a member of a couple, the individual cutout is lower, around $43,810. Here's the brutal part for anyone drawing extra income alongside their pension: part-time work, rental income, or a sizable account-based pension from super, on top of the age pension itself, can push total taxable income past these SAPTO thresholds. Once that happens, the offset that's been quietly protecting you from paying any tax at all starts shrinking, and you can end up with an actual tax bill for the first time, even though your pension payment itself hasn't changed at all. This is exactly the kind of situation where the interaction between multiple income sources matters more than any single number in isolation. The pension, the work bonus, deemed income, and now potentially a real tax liability, all connected and easy to get wrong if you're only looking at one part of the picture. 5 changes, and honestly, most of them aren't really about new rules. They're about existing rules interacting differently now that deeming rates have moved and thresholds have shifted. A higher deemed income, a moved asset cutoff, a misunderstood work bonus, a gift that quietly follows you for 5 years, and a tax offset that can shrink without warning. Quick reminder: I'm not a financial advisor, this is general information, not personal advice. Pension entitlements depend heavily on your individual circumstances, so if any of this sounds close to your situation, get it checked with Services Australia or a financial advisor who specializes in retirement planning. If this helped, hit subscribe. I break down every pension, tax, and super change that actually affects your bottom line. See you in the next one.